And the record button has started. Okay, so what we have so far, the waist seam, or where the waistband is set, the top of the waistband, and then just a nice smooth curve, not too close to the body. We have the hem, and we have put in our curve style line. Okay, now at that point, you can go ahead and pick up your paper and crease, and go fold that crease back now. I'm going to just move this template for a minute so you can see, because once you get to this point, you don't need the template now, because you're simply going to fold the paper. I've got to take my tape off, or I'll tape the paper together. All right, refold on that crease. And now you just trace the other half. So there you see I'm tracing the top of the waistband and the side curve shape. You can use the ruler again if you want to, tracing the bottom hem, putting in the style line. And this style line could or may not have top stitch. So maybe, you know what, let's put top stitch just to make it more exaggerated, more noticeable, because depending on the fabric, the style line might just disappear. But if you could use a contrast top stitch, or you could use a self top stitch, and then the style line would be more visible. So I'm adding a little dotted broken line, and that represents top stitch. Questions, anybody? Is it making sense? Okay. I'm going to, so like I said, if you're using tracing paper, feel free to, cut off what you need, or I'm going to go ahead and just tear this.
Can you put that?
Okay, now for the back, I'm going to just trace the front.
What?
Trace the front. So, and we'll add any details that we need. All right, so we've already got the shape of the skirt, right? Okay, so let's go ahead, refold your tracing paper. Refold a new section of tracing paper. Crease down and on top of what we just did. So this skirt is so simple that you can see we could also just use the template and blah, 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 and have the same thing. But sometimes getting the proportion of a jacket or a particular top or a sweater, whatever, getting the proportion to look the way you want it to takes some time and some effort. So once you do that, you can trace then the back view, or trace the front view to create the back view silhouette, so that they're similar. Okay, so now this time, since I have red, I'm going to go ahead and use black. So here's the thing that you have to remember too. All right, so we only have to trace half of it again. So I'm going to trace, I've got my center back line.
So you're tracing over what you just drew?
I am. All right, now the difference is this time I'm going to draw a center back seam right on that crease, because we're going to need a center back seam in this skirt so that we can put a zipper down the back. Yes.
Okay, I'm confused.
I just took another piece of tracing paper, I creased it, and I laid it on top of the front. And I'm going to use that to create the back. Okay, so once again, just go ahead and duplicate the shape of the skirt and the hem. Okay, and then we have decisions to make. So and this is why designers, pattern makers, assist designers, tech designers, but mostly designers, must draw the front and back of the flat tech. because what happens if you don't draw the back view of your garment, the design? What happens if you don't, okay, because
Or against the,
somebody else gets to design the back of your garment, right? The pattern maker, the sewer, whatever they decide on. So you'd be surprised how many design students, I'll have them do their sketches and they'll do just the front view. It's like, well, what's happening in the back? How do we get into the garment? All right, so we have decisions to make. Does it have a side zip? Does it have a back zip? Does it have a walking slit? It's a pencil skirt. It needs a walking slit or a kick pleat, right? So that we can walk. Okay. All right, now it has to also have I got something all over this. It has to have a back dart. So we don't necessarily, we've got that style line in the front, but we don't necessarily need to do that in the back. So what we need in the back is a 6-inch dart, about a 5 to 6 inch dart. So decide, okay, so that's the other thing. And I don't think I did a very good job of that, so I'm going to change it. So the angle of the dart can make your waist look narrow and your butt look plump and shapely, or it can make your hips look wide and your waist look wide. The placement of the dart itself and the angle. All right, so we want the dart to enhance. We do want the dart to point right to the fullest part of the hip though, right? But we can, by giving it a pretty angle, we can make the waist look narrower. So I'm just kind of following that style line. Okay, now,
And it's a straight line.
yeah, it's just a straight line. I know it's hard to see, but so it's just a straight line. You could even use a ruler. I got something all over this ruler. I gotta get a different ruler. What in the heck? Gooey. Oh, well, I need to start. I got lost this ruler. I don't know what's on it.
so you're just taking over your own original? Did you pull it in half again?
This is reminding
Yes,
what I
this is
stepped over
folded in
here.
half.
There are there's two
Can you
bottles of
open it
plunger
up?
and rags over here, so at the end of the
Because we had
class,
to put in a
we'll
line
wipe
down
off
the
the
center.
To remove
Kick plate.
pencil shavings,
Germs and that sort of thing, that's a good idea. All right, now, we need a walking slit. So what I tend to do is, I'm gonna have a diagonal seam, and I can do it as a broken line or a solid line. That indicates a walking slit. And you might even want to just show a little sliver where it's opened up. I got that a little close, but you can literally just from that point draw like a little V shape. And that'll indicate, oh, there's a walking slit. Okay, now what kind of zipper do we want to put in this skirt?
Invisible.
A back zipper, an invisible zipper? Okay, well, let's look at different types of zipper, because now that I say that, I think we need to learn how all the, yeah, a lap zipper. All right, a lap zipper, you guys learned that in intermediate sewing. And a lap zipper will have top stitch on one side, the side that laps over the zipper. The waistband will have an extension that can have slide hooks or buttons, whatever you as the designer decide you want on the back of your waistband. If you want a clean waistband with nothing showing, that it has just slide hooks underneath there. All right, so it's okay on flats. Now, we would have, if this was a tech pack, we would have call-outs. It would say next to it, this is a 6, or this is a 7-inch lap zipper. But we don't have to have so much, but we can, just with a little arrow and neat writing, you can write 6-inch zipper. I don't have to write lap zipper because the way I draw it indicates that it's a lap zipper. All right, I can also have 2 slide hooks. Or I could write 2 hidden slide hooks, but that's kind of obvious too because I can't see them, right? Or you could decide you want 2 big buttons up there at the top of your waistband. It's up to you. So go ahead and decide what do you want. Do you want, let's do a lap zipper. But let me show you what a railroad zipper or centered zipper would look like. With a railroad or centered zipper, you just have a top stitch on the other side of that seam. It's centered. But again,
Well,
Yeah, so we didn't do a railroad zipper. You did an invisible zipper and a lap zipper and an intermediate. We never got to railroad. Railroad is when the zipper is centered and it is stitched down on both sides.
Oh,
Okay, so this would be a railroad. I think for a skirt like this, a lap zipper is the perfect zipper or a perfect application, or an invisible
is that the
zipper.
one they call the center front zipper too? The
That,
railroad?
center would be,
Center front?
you mean in the fly, on the pant, fly front?
No, I mean like the one you just said where it's the railroad, where it's like the.
I think you're thinking exposed, because there's also exposed zippers. There's
Oh.
many,
No, it's like they're both sides are lap, almost. Or like
yeah,
just a little-
that's a railroad.
Oh, okay.
Yep, yep. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is, again, I'm gonna pick up the back view, because I only drew half of it, and I'm gonna refold the paper and trace the other half. So there's my front, I'm just gonna move it over.
Boy.
And there's my back, I'm just gonna re-crease the paper and get rid of that tape so I don't tape my paper together.
I felt, that's all, because I feel like I missed the slit part.
Okay, I'll go back. All right, but I'm just, so all I'm doing right now is retracing the other side so that it's symmetrical, it has the same shape. Putting the darts, so now the darts line up. Okay, now if it's a lap zipper, I don't need to to put the top stitch on the other side, so I just put what I need. Okay, so what I need here is I've got the lap zipper, I've got the 2 buttons, I've got darts. You're seeing extra lines there because it transferred the pencil onto my clean sheet here. Okay, now the kick pleat. Let's go back over the walking slit or kick pleat. All right, so all you need, you need your center back seam, because zippers are set into seams, so don't forget that zippers are set into seams. All right, for the kick pleat, I'm just going to draw a diagonal broken line. That's going to indicate a stitch there, and the rest of it's clean. Now, I could just not do anything and just have that, but I like to do, from this point here, I'm going to just open that slit up a little bit so it's a little bit more obvious that it's a walking slit. Does that make sense, everybody? All right, and that's your flat technical drawing of your pencil skirt. Now, for the presentation, though, what you would do is take this work that you've done here on the tracing paper, or, like I said, if I was working at home, I would do the flat tech on just photocopy paper. I don't use my marker paper, my expensive paper. I just use photocopy paper. And then I would black line all these details with pen sticks or the Micron. And then it's ready to photocopy. Okay, here's the other thing, guys, that you have to think about. When you do these flat technical drawings, the scale of them needs to look right on the presentation that you're putting them on for your portfolio. So once you've drawn them and you've blacklined them, you can put them on a photocopier and you can enlarge or reduce. So see, this one is about the scale we're working at, right? This one, I was putting 3 pieces together, so I needed to reduce it. Down here, they're reduced a little bit so that they fit into the presentation. So once you've blacklined, you can take it up, down on a photocopier, and then you also have a reference of it for future use, whether it's on a pattern card or whatever you're doing. All right, let's do another skirt since we're on skirts now. Let's go ahead and do this skirt that we drew 2 weeks ago. I think we drew this skirt. So we're going to do the flat tech for this skirt. So go ahead and get a piece of tracing paper, and now here's the thing. We can go back to this template and use this template, or we actually just created a template. We could work this is just a pencil skirt. We could work from that. If you like that proportion, we could, see, because what we're gonna do now is this. All right, you guys are all looking a little scared at that prospect. So here, let's go back to,
Yeah. Let's pretend like we're beginners.
let's go back to this template.
Everybody looking like, yeah, no. Let's go back to the template. These tables get marked up so fast.
But you know what's nice is that they just cleans right off. Yeah, just the cleanser and a rag and it'll come right off. Marker is the only thing that won't come off of them. It's permanent. All right, so same thing. Go ahead and crease the paper. And lay the crease on top of your croquis and tape it down. And some tape. What do I do with the tape? Okay, I have the crease right on top of that center front dotted line, center front torso. There's my reference right next to me. I don't know if that's on the camera or not, but I have my reference right next to me. All right, I'm going to, again, I'll have to draw with the red pencil so that you can see what I'm doing here. And here we go. All right, so at the waist, here, can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's probably a better reference than this. All right. So again, as we know, that even on a flat tech, I mean, this is where it kind of depends on the company that you're working for and what they require as far as flat techs. And honestly, most of the time they're done on the computer. And the computer tends to do, you know, just a straight line. But this is kind of the artist interpretation, because I've got a crease. I can curve that down a little bit to show the roundness of a body, because even though it's not on a croquis or on a figure, the idea of a skirt is it's going to go on a figure, so I'm showing the roundness. So I give mine just a slight downward curve. I always have done that. So anyways, that's what I'm going to do. There's my natural waistband. So it's a somewhat wide waistband, probably about a 2-inch waistband. All right, now, this one's a little bit different. It's asymmetrical. So we can't trace the whole thing, but we can trace part of it. All right, so if you want to kind of go ahead and start to skim the hip, and then I'm going to go ahead and I don't want this real tight. I guess, so, well, it's kind of an interpretation of what this would look like, so I'm not real tight. I'm going to go ahead and skim, or just draw a line from the hip down to the calf muscle of that croquis, and I can kind of, you know, blend that curve by hand. Okay, now,
How far did you draw it down?
just about down to here, we'll put this up, so if that helps, about down to this, to the number 7 line on the croquis. That'll be perfect.
Oh, okay.
All right, you can go ahead and draw a line across. All right, now we're going to start those drapes. So when I drew this skirt, and I was looking at that, I think Christian Siriano design, this is, you would, if you decided to make this skirt, you'd have to figure out, you know, how am I going to construct it? So is it really hitched up and wrapped like a pario? No, probably not. So what I decided, I've gone ahead and extended the bottom of the waistband across, even though I could trace that. And I'm going to go ahead and draw that first drape of fabric across from this, let's call it the anchor point. And then I've got a second drape of fabric. And what I decided is that those pleats or drape. So basically, it's a pleated fabric. That's going to be stitched up here at that hip. And I'm going to draw, actually bring them down a little bit. I think I goofed there. So I've got this one, and I've got this one, and then we'll have them kind of come down. And that fabric, and there might be a little bit, it might not be smooth there because that fabric is being pleated.
It's a little bunch.
Yeah, pleated, like 1-inch pleats, let's say, to create the excess fabric we need, for the draping. Okay, and then what I determined is that this extra drape of fabric would be attached at the side seam. So it's basically the wearer isn't going to have to try to make it tie and look just like that. It's already sewn like that for them. So you pull this skirt on, there's a zipper somewhere. You're not actually fastening in it. So it's not going to be wrapped for real. It's going to be stationed here. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and pull this line down towards the, the opposite calf. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull the line down out. This is like we drew it on the figure. We pull the line out and away from the figure. Did that help?
That's 6. Can you go down so you can show 7, the line? The 7 line? You're at 6. There you go.
Okay, I'm just trying to move the camera without like tweaking that thing up there.
No.
Did that work?
Yeah.
Okay, I can go down even farther if you need, but actually, that's my whole croquis. What I need is actually a little bit more croquis. So, but that's okay because I got plenty of tracing paper here. So if we go farther than the croquis, that's okay too. All right, so what we've got so far is basically like 4 pleats, and then this is where the flounce, I'm going to refer to it as a flounce. That's where that flounce is going to start. So I pull that angle over to the knee here, or over to the calf, I guess, at number 7, and then go ahead and let this side just kind of flow down. And yes, it can come down farther than the croquis. So and don't worry because again, the idea, we're in pencil. You can erase excess lines and you're going to black line it anyways. All right, now, I'm going to add a column of fullness in that center, and that's going to be this right here. So I've got this main drape, I've pulled the line out here, and now I've added a column of fullness right here. Everybody with me?
Nope.
The question is, do you understand what I'm doing?
Yeah, just move
Okay.
a little fast, that's all. Yeah.
All right. It's a lot of lines, isn't it? Okay, so now what we're going to do is,
I'm gonna have to raise my skirt up a little bit because I don't have enough room at the bottom to get all of my fronts.
all right, I'm going to take a dark black line to try to distinguish these lines a little bit more so that you can see. All right, so I've got, here, let me fold this. Actually, I can even take this apart. All right, so what I've got now, this we can see. There's 4 lines there. Okay, so then this became the first line, and it comes to about the same, what's going to be our hemline there at 7. Okay, is this making, hopefully this is making it easier to see. And then this line is going to be the flowing line. And then we've got the column of fullness. Now that column of fullness, that's where we're going to make the backward S and the frontward S like a cascade. So there's the backwards S coming down here to meet this side line, and then just go ahead and angle it back this way. This is the forward S, and it's going to come over to meet this cascade line, and then once again it's going to come down here and kind of meet this point. I'll repeat that. Okay, so I'm actually just kind of have to draw over what I have here. So there's the first part of the cascade, the part that pulls out away from the body, and then we have the middle column of fullness. Okay, everybody with me there? Then at that middle column of fullness, that's where we're going to make this sort of cascade mark. So there's the backwards S coming down and meeting the line that we've pulled out. And then you can just kind of pull the line back to the center at an angle. Here's the forward S coming over and meeting this left part of the cascade, and then boom, they come back down here and meet. Now, this, if you think of this as the anchor point up here, this is where the fabric is falling back on itself. So I think it's clear if you look up here. So here, see what we have? The first line, the second line. The backwards S, the forwards S, and then they meet here. And then important that you show that fabric where it folds back on itself. And there you get basically a flounce or cascade. Yes?
You know. I get the idea of what I said, quite your company.
Okay, well, just take a minute then and work on it. I think I'll just turn the camera off for a second and give you a minute to work on it. And
you actually don't have to turn the camera off because it gives us the